It was a lover and his lass. Hi, I'm Wes Kim, board president of Seattle Musica, and welcome to this month's episode of Choral Tapas, our virtual concert series. We've got stirring music coming your way from Chickasaw composer Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate, Sergei Rachmaninov, and Johannes Brahms, and great food and drink recipes from Seattle Cucina and our own Katie Skovholt. Before we begin, Seattle Musica wishes to acknowledge that the land we work, play, and live on is the original land of the Duwamish tribe, the first people of Seattle. We express our gratitude to both the land and its people. One resource for learning more about the history of Indigenous lands is the Native Land site at native-land.ca. The site is run by Native Land Digital, an organization that seeks to teach visitors about colonialism and indigeneity, and to encourage territory awareness in everyday speech and action. For those of you who attend our events or follow us on social media, you may be aware of the times we draw attention to causes like Indigenous Land Acknowledgement, the Black Voices Matter Pledge, and the Stop Asian Hate movement. And you may in turn wonder, how do these issues intersect with what we do as a choir? The board, staff, and members of Seattle Musica recognize that even nonprofit performing arts groups cannot be bystanders to injustice, which is why in 2018 the board formally adopted a statement on cultural equity. The statement reads in part, "Everyone deserves equal access to a full and vibrant creative life, and this access is essential to a free and healthy society. To support the creative life of our community, Seattle Musica commits to policies and practices of cultural equity that foster equal access, inclusion, and justice. As we pursue our artistic mission, we will hold ourselves accountable to cultural equity by acknowledging and challenging inequities both as an individual arts organization and in partnership with others. We can and will make change happen." It is our hope that by living these words we can fulfill our mission in a way that is as welcoming and inclusive as possible for both members and audience. We're still learning and we'll make mistakes, but we're thankful for your support as we seek to make Seattle Musica an ever more valuable part of the community in which we live. Thanks again for joining us, and now please welcome Karen P. Thomas.
Hello, and welcome back to Choral Tapas. I'm Karen Thomas, the Artistic Director of Seattle Musica, and happy to welcome you back to our newest bite-sized concert. Today's recipes were shared on our Facebook page and website in advance, so you can cook, stir, or shake right along with us. Today we'll be listening to music by Brahms, by Rachmaninov, and by contemporary composer Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate. Starting us off today, we're going to go in the Wayback Machine to 2014 and hear an excerpt from our performance of Brahms' German Requiem. Here to introduce that is our former member, Jill Kimball.
Hi, my name is Jill Kimball, and I sang soprano with Seattle Musica from 2010 to 2015. One of my all-time favorite Musica moments has to be the 2014 performance of Johannes Brahms' Ein deutsches Requiem. There are so many reasons why this piece is pure magic to me. It's so full of hummable melodies, but also so full of moments of darkness and rawness and thorniness in the music. It stretches singers to the limits of their abilities, but in the best way possible. And it's so full of emotions like joy and sadness and hope that you don't have to speak German or even read the English translations to know exactly what's going on at any given time. But I think one of my favorite things about the Brahms Requiem is that it's an ode to the living, to the survivors among us. And I think that makes it the perfect soundtrack for this particular moment in time, when so many of us are grappling with the loss that we have experienced in the last year, lost loved ones, lost strangers we've never met before, but also feeling hopeful for the future, hopeful that the world may open up again soon. The Brahms Requiem is full of grief, but it's also full of hope, which shows that it's both okay and possible to hold both of those emotions within ourselves at the same time. I hope the Brahms Requiem brings you as much comfort as it's brought me.
Hi, my name is Katie Skovholt. I'm the Executive Director of Seattle Pro Musica, and I'd like to make you a cocktail. Since we have Rachmaninov in this concert, I seriously considered just doing this. Cheers! Skål? What's Russian for cheers?
За ваш здоровай.
I got an important piece of feedback via our last survey. Someone said to me, please, make something I can make. I don't have the fancy things you've been using. So I thought to myself, what does almost everyone in the history of time have dusty and janky and barely used? It's Kahlua! So, anonymous commenter, I hope you have some Kahlua. But our auction is coming up on April 24th is our opening night. It runs till April 30th. Our theme is 2021, a choral odyssey. And one of the items available for bid in the auction will be our May cocktail. So if you have something you've been dying to see me make, or you have a dusty old bottle of something that you want me to use in this next month's cocktail, you just go ahead and become the winning bidder, and then you can make the decision. So, today we really have a 2-for-1 cocktail scenario. You can make a stirred espresso martini version of this drink, the Ascension, or you can make a lengthened coffee tonic afternoon sipper sort of version of this cocktail. First, as always, we'll prepare our garnish. Also, we're 3 cocktail segments in. I hope you know now that you can find the recipes on the Seattle Pro Musica website, seattlepromusica.org/choral-tapas. It's also linked in the description box below this video. So I'm not gonna put the stuff on the screen anymore. Just gonna take a big old strip off with a Y peeler. We've done this before, twice. And then you can set that aside. You can trim it up if you like, or you can leave it natural. Now, if you want to make this into the coffee tonic version, and side note, if you don't like the taste of tonic, use soda. Use anything sparkly. Don't use LaCroix. Now I'm seized with doubt. I wouldn't use light beer. I also wouldn't use sparkling wine. I'd use a soda or tonic. You're the one making this drink at home, so. The next step's the same, whether you're gonna make the stirred martini version of the drink or the sparkly tonic version of the drink. Fill your mixing glass with ice. 1.5 ounces of vodka. 3/4 ounce of Kahlua. Feel free to use your favorite coffee liqueur. And for just a touch of sweetness, 1/4 ounce of Grand Marnier. Yeah. Chocolate bitters, a couple of dashes. Scenario 1, the stirred cocktail. To finish that one, you're going to express your orange peel over top. And that's the stirred version of the Ascension. Cheers. But wait, there's more. Let's rewind time. This is where you want to move quickly. That's like a couple of stirs. I've already talked too long. Here I go. We're gonna want a double rocks glass filled with ice. Wow! This is an etched glass Seattle Pro Musica branded double rocks tumbler. Can you see it? We're gonna be selling a limited run of these at our auction. Any that are left over will become available via our website following the event. But if you wanna be sure you get a couple of these, you're gonna wanna register for the Seattle Pro Musica auction. That's the way to do it. They are very cool. I'm very excited about them. We'll be selling them for $18 for one or $30 for a pair of them. Oh, marvelous. Okay, so we just stirred this up just a little bit. So you'll take your double rocks glass, your beautiful, attractive, worthy double rocks glass filled with ice, and you will take your just ever so slightly stirred cocktail and pour it in over top. Top it with your tonic or your soda water, whichever is your preference. Do try the tonic if you've never done that. It's worth it. So that's the Ascension in its fully realized, tonicized, lengthened form. And you also have that option to just drink it like the espresso martini it could be. So you've got your afternoon form, you've got your after dinner form. You can make the choice that's best for you.
Well, hi, it's voiceover Katie here to teach you how to make an orange simple syrup. You're going to want to use equal parts water and sugar and bring them to a simmer with strips of orange peel in. Make sure that all the sugar gets dissolved and your orange peel will taste like candy. Now, once that's done, let it cool and fill your glass with ice. I used about 3 ounces of cold brew because the flavor is more concentrated than cold brewed coffee. You get it. As much simple syrup as you like for flavor, and then top it with tonic. Oh God. Right. And then top it with tonic. Gently, gently. And stir it one more time. Gently. Top it with one of your sticky pieces of orange peel from your syrup. And there you go. You have a lovely no-octane coffee tonic with orange.
And I hope you always make the choice that's best for you. Cheers! Truly no idea when I got this.
Thank you, Katie. The Ascension cocktail is going to pair very nicely with our next piece, We Are the Storm by Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate. A citizen of the Chickasaw Nation in Oklahoma, Jerod Tate is a composer and pianist who is dedicated to the development of American Indian classical composition. His works have been performed by major orchestras across the country, like the San Francisco and Detroit Symphony Orchestras, and he's written commissions for the Dale Worland Singers, the Santa Fe Chamber Music Festival, and the Santa Fe Desert Chorale, among many others. On the other side of the spectrum, his music has been featured on the HBO series Westworld, and he played first keyboard on the Broadway national tours of Les Mis and Miss Saigon. And now, before we hear We Are the Storm, here is Seattle ProMusica member Shirley Beresford with a personal introduction.
Hello, my name is Shirley Beresford. I've been singing with Seattle ProMusica for nearly 22 years. It's an honor to introduce Jerod Tate's We Are the Storm. I really like how Jerod Tate uses both words and music to remind us of our connection with nature. It reminds me of how many composers weave in folk music, and funnily enough, it takes me back nearly 50 years to London when I was singing music of Bela Bartok and Zoltán Kodály under the Hungarian conductor Laszlo Heltai. Here in We Are the Storm, Tate sets the mood of reflection and purpose musically, and then helps me feel the humid, oppressive atmosphere of an impending storm as the piece begins. I like how we're led to identify with that storm, the lightning, the thunder, the rain, as it calls us to become part of the healing and hope for the future. Enjoy.
Gathers a storm.
The singers and I recently had the opportunity to spend some time over Zoom with Jerod Tate. And with his permission, we'd like to share some of that interview with you so that you can get to know him as well.
Hello.
Hello, Jerod. How are you? So good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm doing well, thanks.
We just finished singing through your piece a couple of times. So maybe just, by way of starting us off here, if you would like to say a little bit about just your background and kind of your musical influences from a young age and whatnot.
Well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself to you in my language. Chukma, Chinchukmata Hatak, Sohol Shifoet, Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate, Chikashasaya, Hashlaka Sayopa, Chukmashki, Yakoke. Hi everyone, my name is Jerod Impichchaachaaha Tate, and I'm a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation here in Oklahoma. And it's just really, really nice to be here. It's a real honor. I really appreciate you doing this piece. And but I guess just a little bit about myself. I'm from Oklahoma, and I was born here. My father is Chickasaw Indian from Ardmore, which is just 100 miles south of here. Well, he's a retired special district judge, tribal judge, and attorney, and was also one of our legislators for the tribe, and also one of our authors of our current Chickasaw Constitution. Every tribe in the country has its own constitution because we have dual citizenship. Dad is also a phenomenally classically trained pianist and baritone. So I grew up with piano repertoire in the house from my Indian dad, and let's say so. Then mom was Manx Irish, and so I'm Chickasaw and Manx. And mom was a professional choreographer and dancer, and born and raised in Nebraska. So I was basically born and raised in the theater. They totally met in theater, and I was just raised with a lot of theater in my life. I was about to start school at the Cleveland Institute of Music, and my mom approached me, and she wanted to do an original ballet based on American Indian stories from the Northern Plains and Rockies. And that ballet was entitled Winter Moons, and that became my first composition. She asked me to write the score. She's like, well, you're my Indian kid, you should do the score. And I thought she was out of her mind. I said no. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It just really affected me. And I think, the shock was that mom, unbeknownst to her, she was asking me to be my entire self. And there it was. At that time, I had not even considered having a relationship between my Chickasaw identity and my identity as a classical musician. I didn't see anything at all in any relationship. And it's really funny because here I'm playing Prokofiev and Debussy, and composers like that who strongly identified with their ethnic and national identities in their compositions. I mean, it was just like on the sleeve, and in high school I picked up the Bartók string quartets and listened to those very intently. And I'm listening to Bartók, and I wasn't seeing a relation. So it all just came together, and I composed the ballet score, and I had a lot of real positive feedback from both my native and classical communities. And they were just like, Jerod, you've got to do this. And I was like, I don't know, I have to think about this. And so I went back to the Cleveland Institute of Music. I added that to my major, and then I announced to my family I would identify specifically as a Chickasaw classical composer. And that's been my life passion, is that I just am completely focused on American Indian culture and history in all the works that I do. So this work is an example. Just so you know, you all are singing three influential styles in this. One is like a Zuni type sunrise song. So I was creating melodies that were alluding. I didn't want to directly quote in this particular piece, but they're very much in the style. So, and then there's also a Chickasaw Garfish dance song that's actually inverted, that you're singing on the We Are Light, and then when this tune looks like that, and so that's an inversion of, because the tune normally goes okay. So and then at the very end is very much the style of an Ojibwe round dance type song. And so I can demonstrate those for you if you want. But those you're singing like it's like a medley of 3 different styles from different parts of Indian country that were the focus. So that's kind of the breakdown of that work. When you're singing like that, ya hey, hey, ya hey, ha, ya hey, ya hey, ha, hey, ha, way, ya hey, hey, ya ho, hey, ya ho, hey, ya hoy. And so that's just a very Ojibwe style round dance. And so I just thought that would be a really nice kind of like round, just like, I think it speaks for itself, the unifying sound at the end like that. Mm-hmm. So just like pensive and poetic moments in introspection at the beginning, and then getting into a kind of a joyous togetherness sound toward the end of the piece like that. So it's modern art. Okay, if we take it back to the day. Again, this happens in every artistic medium, is that people are abstracting original material from wherever they come from. So like if you compare it to other genres of fine art in Indian country, I mean, Indian paintings are very well known, and they're modern painters. That's been going on. It's a genre that's 150 years old now, that's world famous, is American Indian painting, just in general. And so you've got all kinds of artists who are taking icons, all of them from their own tribes, and abstracting the heck out of them, just like Picasso did. And so we're just on board, just like modern artists are of any time. Another really good example is beadwork. Beads are originally from China, really. And that's when the influx came in. But beads are not aboriginal to here. The closest thing was quill work. And there was actually patchwork. There was textile art in the Southeast, but beads were not here. And now we are world famous for beadwork. And in fact, when beads started, it was only with a few tribes, but now it's with all kinds of tribes that didn't bead before. So it's become a pan-tribal thing. Basically, what we're pulling it down to is adaptation. So what I'm doing is I'm literally adapting many aspects from my own classical training and from my own traditions as a Chickasaw guy. And I'm being a modern artist, just like my ancestors were on both sides of the pond.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and really appreciate it.
This is very meaningful to me that I get the time to be able to talk with people and enjoy smiles and, just to hang out. This is really valuable to me, and I think it's valuable to all of us. And again, I do like to push that positive message, like, this is great. This is what we should be doing, and let's embrace this and, conquer the world. Like, yeah. Y'all have a great week, and we'll be in touch soon, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Katie Skovholt. I'm the Executive Director of Seattle ProMusica, and I'm back in my official capacity to welcome you to Choral Tapas and to ask for your support. Choral Tapas events are free, and that's because of the contributions of generous watchers like you. If you have the capacity to make a financial gift, we'd be very grateful. You can visit seattlepromusica.org/donate. You can text the word choir to the number 44321. You can mail a check to our P.O. Box. That address is in the description box below. And you can visit seattlepromusica.org/donate for more information on our Fermata Giving Club, which is a sustaining monthly program. You can also support us in other ways. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is extremely helpful. You can leave comments here, you can share, you can like, or you can do some combination of all of those things. However you decide to support Seattle ProMusica, whether it's with your presence, with a gift, or with your social media capital, we'd be very grateful for your ongoing support. Thanks again, and now to Erica.
Hello and welcome to the cooking demonstration portion
My name is Erica, co-founder of Seattle Cucina Cooking School, and today I'm going to be demonstrating something a little bit different. Instead of a classic tapas, I'm going to be demonstrating what's widely known as one of the main dishes of Spain, paella. This recipe that's been provided, it's called paella para ti, or paella for you. It's meant to make paella maybe more achievable and attainable for you. I think people always think of the big paella pan, but you can make a delicious rice-based dish that very much closely resembles paella from home without getting the special paella pan or getting fancy Spanish rice. Take the reins at a certain point and put your own spin on it, right? Whatever vegetables, protein, seafood sounds good to you. So let's get cooking. An important thing to figure out is the kind of pan you want to use. I'm using a 12-inch cast iron. If you don't have a cast iron, the largest possible non-stick or stainless steel type pan is going to work great as well. So you have plenty of room to work in. And then start to heat your pan. Alright, things are looking and smelling amazing here. Before you add your rice, it's not in the recipe, but I do recommend giving it a little rinse. And as you can see, the water in these 2 cups of rice has turned quite white, and that's from all the starch. And then strain out that starchy water. I'm actually using Calrose rice. Of course, you can use any Spanish variety, or if you already have some, medium or short grain rice on hand, feel free to use that. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna add the other vegetables I'd like in my paella at this point. It's the only time we're gonna stir. Grab a grain of rice, taste it at this point. Taste for how done the rice is getting, because it's pretty dry, and if it's not done enough, we're gonna need to add more liquid, right? You're also gonna taste for seasoning. If you want to add seafood after 5 minutes, now is the time. I'm going to add some prawns. Make sure you season them with a bit of salt, and mussels. With the mussels, make sure they've been washed, that you clean off the beards. You don't want that. It's been roughly 5 minutes, and as you can see, this is not cooked. Some of these mussels are opening, but a lot of these aren't fully opened yet. Take all the time that's needed, moving your pan around so that each side gets an even dose of heat. And while the paella bubbles away, just to talk briefly about the origins of paella, many people assume it is the national dish of Spain. But in fact, in Spain, it's widely regarded as the dish of Valencia. It's on the east coast, so it's on the water. And the name paella, it's a Valencian word just for pan or frying pan. And then there are two types that are very traditional to that region, to the Valencian region. There is paella valenciana, which uses mostly game and meat. And then there's also paella de marisco, which is paella of the sea. And Valencia, being on that coast, has access to a ton of seafood. As paella grew in popularity throughout Spain over the years, paella mixta, which Valencians do not see as the true paella, but that is mixed paella, right? So that is a myriad of different vegetables, seafood, and meat, and that's what we have made. It's looking delightful. I'm gonna go ahead and top everything with parsley. Okay, paella is looking amazing. I would just serve it straight out of the pan. I wanted to point out, make sure you kind of scrape the bottom and you get this like lovely dark brown crispy bits. That's called socorat. It has a lot of flavor and it's just a sign of a good paella, usually the coveted part of a paella. This is such a great dish to bring out this summer, to share and enjoy with loved ones, maybe people you haven't seen in quite some time. On that note, I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye and enjoy the rest of the show. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you, Erica. That paella looks fantastic. Our next piece is by Sergei Rachmaninov. It's the sixth movement, Bogoroditse Devo, from his all-night vigil or Vespers. Now, as a choral composer, Rachmaninov was part of what's called the New Russian School of Choral Composition, along with people like Tchaikovsky and Rimsky-Korsakov. And these composers, right around the turn of the 20th century, were going back to using old chant in their compositions. And they also called on choirs to do something called choral orchestration, which is to employ a lot of articulation that was very meticulously notated, to use a lot of divisi of parts, a wide palette of dynamics, much more so than a lot of choral music that preceded it. Rachmaninov and I have a sort of a strange personal history. I never actually met him, of course. But a number of years ago, in the early 90s, I was a composer at Dorland Mountain Arts Colony in Southern California. I was there for a month in a cabin composing. And after being there for about a week, I learned the story that the piano I was composing on, which was a 9-foot Steinway, was a piano that was actually played by Rachmaninoff. And it was out here in the middle of the California desert in this little shack of a cabin with no heat and no air conditioning. And there were mice living inside of it and mice inside the walls. And I would get up in the morning and look in the piano and there were mouse droppings. But this piano had belonged to Ellen Dorland, who was the founder of the Arts Colony. She was actually a very well-known concert pianist. When she was there, Rachmaninoff was on a concert tour and he was to play in San Diego. And he got to San Diego and he didn't like the piano in the concert hall there. And he knew that Ellen Dorland was living out in the desert and he knew her piano because she had brought this amazing 9-foot Steinway with her to the desert. And so he contacted her and they actually trucked her piano out to San Diego for Rachmaninoff to perform on. This piano, which was kind of in a state of disrepair, was in this cabin in the middle of the desert and I got to compose on it for a month. And it's pretty amazing to sit at a keyboard and think that Rachmaninoff's gigantic hands had been all over this keyboard and I got to touch it as well. So I think of that every time we do something by Rachmaninoff. One of our basses, Paul Drana, is here to give a little personal introduction.
Hi, my name is Paul Drana, and I've been singing with Seattle ProMusica since 2002. The next piece you're going to hear is Bogoroditse Devo. It is the 6th movement from Rachmaninoff's epic and sweeping all-night vigil, settings of texts from the Russian Orthodox tradition. This particular movement is a setting of the Hail Mary text. I think what's so special about this piece is how universally beloved it is by singers and audiences alike. And I think there's a really simple reason for that. Whether or not you personally identify as Christian, whether or not the Hail Mary text is deeply meaningful to you, whether or not you speak a word of Russian or even look at the translation on the page, when you listen to this music, you understand. You cannot help but feel the intense, personal, passionate faith that Rachmaninov had when he was writing this. It just comes through in the music. It's not uncommon for audiences to be moved to tears by this piece. And it's not uncommon for us singers, frankly, to have to choke back a couple tears while we're singing it as well. It's an intensely, deeply personal and passionate expression of Rachmaninoff's personal faith. And whatever your faith traditions are, in this, the season of renewal and new life, and as we all emerge into a new world after this dark and strange year, I hope that this piece gives you the same comfort that it gives us singing it. Thank you.
Thanks again for coming to our third iteration of Choral Tapas. We're very glad that you chose to be here tonight. Don't forget, we'd really appreciate your support in many ways. You can make a contribution to Seattle Pro Musica, or you can share, like, and subscribe, or you can do both. We also have our fundraising auction coming up on the 24th of April, and we'd love to see you there. And don't forget, you can get one of those fantastic glasses through the auction specifically. So we hope to see you at that event. Thanks again for coming to this one, and we're looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you so much for joining us for Choral Tapas. Our next bite-sized event is on May 22nd. We'll enjoy music from Mendelssohn's Elijah, Reinberger's Abendlied, and an interview with and music by contemporary composer Sander Troy. I'd like to thank our Choral Tapas production team. Our audio engineers were Kevin Wyatt Stone and Bill Levy of Via Audio. Thanks to our videographer, Wes Kim, Erica Weissman of Seattle Cucina Cooking School, our cocktail maven, Katie Skovholt, Joshua Gailey, our administrative and operations director, and all the singers of Seattle Pro Musica. Until next time, cheers.